There's a false assumption about science operating here. Science, in principle, is not committed to the idea that there is no afterlife or that the mind is identical to the brain or that materialism is true. Science is completely open to whatever, in fact, is true. And if it's true that consciousness is being run like software on the brain and can, by virtue of ectoplasm or something else we don't understand, be dissociated from the brain at death, that would be a part of a growing scientific understanding of the world if we could discover it. And there are ways in which we could, in fact, discover it if it were true. The problem is there are very good reasons to believe it's not true. We can know this from now 150 years of neurology, where you damage specific areas of the brain and faculties are lost. It's not that everyone with brain damage has their soul intact, they just can't get the words out. Everything about your mind can be damaged by damaging the brain. You can cease to recognize faces, you can cease to know the names of animals, but you can still recognize tools. I mean, there is the fragmentation in the way in which our mind is parcellated at the level of the brain is not intuitive at all, and there's a lot known about it. And what we are being asked to consider is that you damage one part of the brain and something about the mind and subjectivity is lost. You damage more and another is lost. And yet, if you damage the whole thing at depth, you can raise off the brain and you can raise off the brain with all our faculties intact, recognizing grandma and speaking English. It remains a fact that yogis and mystics are said to be walking on water, rising from the dead, flying without the aid of technology, materializing objects, reading minds, foretelling the future. In fact, right now all these powers have been ascribed to the South Indian Guru Satya Sai Baba by an uncountable number of witnesses. Satya Sai Baba is not a fringe figure. His followers threw a birthday party for him recently and 1 million people turned up. So there are vast number of people who believe that he is a living God. You can even watch his miracles on YouTube. Prepare to be underwhelmed. So consider this as though for the first time, the foundational claim of Christianity. The claim is this: miracle stories of a sort that are surrounded by a person like Satya Sai Baba today become especially compelling if you set them in the pre-scientific religious context of the 1st century Roman Empire. We have Satya Sai Baba's miracles attested to by thousands upon thousands of living eyewitnesses, and they don't even merit an hour on the Discovery Channel. But you place a few miracle stories in some ancient book, and half the people on earth think it's a legitimate project to organize their lives around them. Does anyone else see a problem with that? Okay, it's been an intense week. I was on vacation last week. This is the first vacation I've taken with my family. It's been at least a year. Can't recall the last one, I think. But anyway, I was on vacation and attempting to be a good father and a good husband, wasn't paying too much attention to social media. But I did happen to catch at one point that Glenn Greenwald, Reza Aslan, and Ezra Klein have all attacked me in a span of an hour on Twitter. And genius that I am, I felt a need to respond right then and there. I think the lesson of this whole episode is don't rush to make things worse. That is a lesson I will try to absorb fully going forward. And frankly, I think I need to rethink my relationship with social media. There are so many problems that need not be created, that are pure confections of of having said something or noticed what someone has said on social media. By that means, I can say that I see you as a reincarnate personality and you're probably on Atlantis. People can do this all the time. This is constrained by our common sense in every other domain of discourse. For example, just take the people who think Elvis is still alive. What is the problem with this claim? Why is this claim not vitiating the academic domain? And I'll tell you why. And it's very simple. We have not passed any laws against believing that Elvis is alive. The problem is that when Somebody seriously represents his belief that Elvis is still alive in a first date or a job interview, he immediately pays a price. He pays a price in terms of ill concealed laughter. 9 million children die every year before the age of 5. So, before I reach the end of this sentence, some children would have likely died in terror and agony. Think of the parents of these children. Think of the fact that most of these men and women believe in God and are praying at this very moment for their children to be spared. But their prayers will not be answered. Any God who would allow children by the millions to suffer and die this way, and their parents to grieve this way, either can do nothing to help them or doesn't care to. So he is therefore either impotent or evil.